Welcome to Feminist Utopia, a community dedicated to envisioning and creating a more just society for all.
Welcome to Feminist Utopia. In our Feminist Utopia, there wouldn't be 12 people up on the Democratic presidential debate stage. That was ridiculous.
It absolutely was ridiculous, but in the same breath, I am happy that they didn't cut it down to 2 nights because you really did, I feel, need to have all of the candidates on stage at the same time to get a good feel for their personalities, and it would just be too much to ask for us to give them attention 2 nights in a row.
I just want to give fewer of them my attention. So let's start with who we want to not have there in November. Who should go?
Well, I can tell you who is already qualified in November, so I can tell you who we're going to see regardless of whether we want to or not. And one of them is Steyer. He's already qualified.
Are you kidding me?
So in November, let's just back up a little bit. The presidential debate qualifications are changing. The candidates must register at least 3% in 4 polls approved by the party since September 13th, or at least 5% in 2 early state polls. In addition, they have to earn donations from at least 165,000 unique donors, with at least 600 coming from 20 individual states. So it's a lot, but basically they have to be polling 3 or 5%. They have to have a broad base of support across the country.
That's not a real high level of support, though, across the country, and I'm tired of that. And the early states thing bugs the hell out of me, and I got into a little bit of a snit fit with, I think it was the New Hampshire Democrats, because frankly, I don't care about Iowa and New Hampshire, and why do we give them disproportionate power in deciding who is going to be our nominee?
And we have for years.
Years. And they're very white states. And I had a direct message from someone with the New Hampshire Democrats Association say, we are a very diverse state. And I looked it up. They're like 94% white. Sit down, shut up. You're not diverse. You're 94% white.
Exactly. And the other thing that bothers me is I don't think you can get much more Midwest than Iowa. And then there was that whole incident with the Midwestern states are all tired of politics and yeah, but we can get into that a little bit later. But just to recap, the people that are already qualified in the November debate, they have to meet these qualifications by November 13th. And it's Biden, unsurprisingly, Sanders, Warren, but also Cory Booker, Pete Buttigieg,
Okay.
Kamala Harris,
Ugh.
Andrew Yang, and then his name, Steyer, I can't remember his first name, but he's already qualified somehow. I don't know how.
It's interesting. I just referred to him as the billionaire when I was live tweeting.
Oh, yeah.
What is he bringing to the table? He basically gave the same stump speech as Trump did about you need a businessman in charge. He did that last night on the stage, and I'm thinking, oh, make this stop. Have we not learned anything?
He walked on stage, and I was immediately reminded of Ross Perot for some reason. He's just another pasty-faced white guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he really answered any questions. I think he tried to get his talking points across. And he was the one who spoke the least last night. And there was a pretty broad range of disparity. Elizabeth Warren spoke the most with like 22 minutes. And then I think at the other end of the spectrum was Steyer with like 7 minutes or something.
Well, Elizabeth Warren spoke the most because she was attacked the most. And that was what we saw when Biden was the front runner 2 debates ago. He spoke the most.
Can we just revel a moment in the fact that Elizabeth Warren is the front runner?
Enjoy the moment. It may not last. She may not be the nominee, but enjoy the moment.
You know, that's one of the things. If you didn't watch the debate, if you haven't watched any of the debates, you have no reason to feel guilty
Not at
because
all.
this really doesn't change things. It doesn't change the Democratic nomination contest any more than, the previous matchups did. After 4 debates, the people who were at the top of the field before the campaign started, Biden, Warren, and Sanders, are still the top three. And the struggling candidates continue to struggle with little to show for it.
Yes. And it's going to keep going on that way. I personally watch it for the entertainment value. I love the live tweeting that I do. I love interacting with the people while I do it. I love the fact that my husband brings home dinner from work and takes care of feeding everybody, including me. So I wish there were debates at least one night a week, but that would get expensive.
The frustrating thing for me, and I don't know if I'm going to go to another debate watch party, was some of the people that were at the watch party were disrespectful and talking and having their side conversations. I did actually leave a little bit early and listen to the debate on the radio for the rest of the time.
Well, sorry to hear that. I do it from my living room with my computer and my phone. And I text back and forth with you, and then I start interacting with people on Twitter. So it's a fun thing for me, and my kids aren't allowed to talk to me. It's awesome. Going back to being disrespectful, do we want to discuss the final question first?
Oh, sure. That was probably one of the most contentious things of the debate.
Yeah, and in case you didn't watch it, the final question was about the Ellen controversy, where Ellen has been photographed with George W. Bush, and people who probably didn't even watch the show anyway said that was awful, and Shrub is a war criminal, and Ellen shouldn't be seen with him. And so Ellen doubled down and pulled out her white girl tears and said, when I say we should be nice to people, I mean we should be nice to everyone, including people we have different opinions from. So the final question came, I believe it was Anderson Cooper who asked it. And he said, in light of this Ellen controversy, friends with different opinions, the assumption that that's all okay. And tell us about a friend that you have a different opinion from and the importance of being closeness. And it really was a white centering question, given that there are so many more important things that should have and could have been discussed last night.
Right. I think Julian Castro was the one that tweeted, we had 3 hours of debates and no questions about climate change, housing, immigration, but yet Ellen.
Yes, so Ellen's white girl tears are more important than kids in cages. And if that isn't BS, I don't know. And I thought Julian Castro on the stage also had the best answer to it, where he's like, we need to hold people accountable.
Right.
You can be nice and hold people accountable at the same time. I don't think anybody else had as good an answer as he did on that. And Amy Klobuchar doubled down on white feminism by saying we have to be nice. Cory Booker had a everybody love everybody, we have to love everybody thing that was kind of cringy, but you do you. The missed opportunity, and Julian Castro also said this, was journalistic malfeasance at the end. He said this to the CNN moderators on air after the debate. No holds barred. That tweet was nice compared to what he said to them.
Well, good for him,
Yes. That question, I said, they did not just end with a middle school team building exercise question. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
We're going to do a discussion about niceness and white toxic feminism and something in the future. This whole Ellen thing has caused some uproar within the Feminist Utopia Facebook group.
I think that behind it that just upsets me is this insinuation that, we have to be nice. Well, no, we don't.
You can be nice if that's what works for you. I'm not telling anybody they can't be nice.
Well, yeah, like I said, future episode.
Well, yeah, and then there's like historical context like that. But this focus on niceness is really pandering to white supremacy. And we'll come back to that. Was there much pandering to white supremacy other than that question last night?
I was kind of waiting for Biden to put his foot in it.
So was I.
because, he has in the past. And I think he did put his foot in his mouth a little bit when he was talking about how he's the only one that can get anything done.
Yes. The only one who's ever accomplished anything on that stage.
Right.
I want the confidence of a white man someday. I just want to be able to stand on a group of people like that, senators, congressmen, and so on, and say, y'all haven't done anything compared to me.
And he, when Elizabeth Warren kind of wanted to say, excuse me, she said, wait a minute. She pointed out her work before she was a senator, helping pass the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And Biden was quick to add that he was the one that rounded up votes for the legislation.
Mm-hmm. Interrupted her to do it.
Yeah. And he said, I convinced people to vote for it. And her response, I would never be able to come up with that on the spot. She was gracious, but everyone on that stage knew that she was putting Biden in his place when she said, I am deeply grateful to President Obama.
See, and you said you couldn't think of it. I could think of it, but I couldn't deliver it as graciously. I'd be like raising an eyebrow, turning to him, looking like, what the hell's wrong with you, Uncle Joe? And saying it very sarcastically. So that's why we're not running for office.
She was under attack. I thought she handled it with grace. She's got great timing.
She does.
Just the way she responded to that and the timing in her famous response to the question about, what do you say to someone who believes that marriage is only between one man and one woman? And she says, I assume it's a man, and I would tell him just to marry one woman. And then she pauses and says, assuming he could find one, which was perfect timing, and it was funny. And I think she's risen in my estimation. I've been a fan for a long time, but it was nice to see her composure. Nobody rattled her. She never lost control. And she spun the debate back to the places where she was comfortable. And
yes.
A couple of times when she was attacked, she came out really strong because they were stupid enough to attack her about something that was her favorite thing to talk about.
Amy Klobuchar. That is who I think of when I think of the people attacking Warren the other night who failed. You don't go after Warren talking about data. She will hand you your ass. And Amy Klobuchar, I know, was trying to get out. She knew she had to break out, go after the front runner. I get all that. But Amy didn't look comfortable doing it. She also didn't have her ducks in a row.
Right.
When you tell her, well, you have no way to control for this and you're wrong about that. And then basically Warren responds, I've been studying this for my career, this data.
Right.
About how it damages families and starts breaking it down again and again and again. Why would you pick a fight with Warren in her house? Like, why go after her for that? Talk about foreign policy. I mean, I can think of 3 other things that would have been smarter. And Amy Klobuchar just she stepped on the rake and hit herself in the head with the handle on that.
I mean, but one thing that she said over and over again that I think she was trying to land, and I think it did, was, that Warren wasn't the only one that had bold ideas, and just because it wasn't Warren's idea doesn't mean that it wasn't bold.
But then she doesn't talk about the bold ideas. Amy Klobuchar again last night talked about how we can't have what we really want. We have to settle. And I'm like,
oh, right.
So
she had that, pipe dreams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so Amy Klobuchar lost points with me last night.
Yeah.
She just bombed. She does her best when she's talking about the stuff she knows. She does her best when she's going after Trump. She's a great senator.
Yeah. And she did have, her moment when she said that no one on this stage wants to protect the billionaires. Not even the billionaire wants to protect billionaires. So that was pretty funny, but she is one that I don't want to see in November. Let's let her go gracefully back to being an excellent representative, congressperson, whatever, from Minnesota.
Yes. And speaking of people that gained a couple points with me last night was Kamala Harris, as long as we're talking about female senators. And I'm not normally a huge fan.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me.
Because Benita's heard me complain about Kamala Harris a lot off recordings. I really liked her multiple attempts at bringing conversations back to women's reproductive health.
Yeah, that was on our bingo card. And
yes, it was.
Yeah, we didn't think that anybody would talk about it because nobody had talked about it yet. So, yeah, I was thrilled when she brought that up too.
And she specifically addressed issues with women of color. Julian Castro did, Cory Booker did. And it's interesting how they talked about reproductive justice. And in case you don't know what that is, it's not just being pro-choice. Pro-choice means people have the choice to get an abortion or the choice to get birth control. Reproductive justice requires there to be access. So it's not just you have the choice. Do you really have a choice if there's no way to afford it? Do you really have a choice if there's no clinic in your neighborhood or your state? And it's not just about abortion. It's about access to abortion. It's about access to birth control. It's about access to family planning, the access to a living wage, access to shelter. Because are you really, again, having a choice about what kind of reproductive life you want to have if you can't take care of yourself? So reproductive justice is a huge concept. If you want to learn more, sistersong.net. I'll put a link in there. You can go read more about it. They addressed it. I believe Castro actually used the term reproductive justice. But those three people, all people of color, broadened the discussion in a way that I've not seen traditional mainstream media approach it yet. And I really like that. So points to Kamala.
Yeah, she did. She deserves that. She lost a few points, though, going after Warren about Trump's Twitter account.
Oh, that was so bad.
I mean, it was just,
that's terrible.
I just felt like, really, that's the hill you want to die on? Harris wanted Warren to say that Twitter should ban Trump's account, just like she called for Twitter to ban Trump's Twitter account. She wanted, Warren to sign on to it. To sign on that.
You're not really doing anything about big tech if you don't do it this one little thing. And it was really just awkward.
And not to mention the free speech issues that you would open yourself up to. And, it really was awkward. She had some high points. She had some low points.
Well, and the really bad thing about going after Warren for that, again, you're going after Warren in her own house. Warren is the candidate who ran a fake ad on Facebook recently claiming that Mark Zuckerberg supported Donald Trump. And Facebook said, hey, that's a lie. And Warren's campaign is like, yes, it is. And you run a bunch of lies. It was all a stunt. So to sit there and complain that Warren isn't serious about big tech is not a good move. Like, again, go after her for something that she isn't talking about instead of the thing she's taking the lead on.
Right. So, I mean, I don't think that I want to see Harris on the stage again in November either.
I think we are going to see her on the stage in November. I don't want to see Klobuchar on the stage.
Oh, I already probably said that she was on the stage. I got to look again.
Really?
Yeah, she is. I keep getting confused. There's too many candidates. So yeah, we will see her definitely on the stage again, but I don't know. I'm not a fan.
So who do we want to see on the stage other than Warren? I want to see Cory Booker on the stage.
Yeah. I mean, I like how he steers the discussion. Like you mentioned,
Yes.
he and Harris both bring up things that are thoughtful. He had that line last night about, oh, wait, I'm getting confused between Booker and Buttigieg when they were talking about Beto taking the guns away and Beto was going to have the police go door to door and take guns
Yes.
away. Was that Booker that said
I
that?
thought it was Castro.
Oh, yeah. See, there's too many. I'm already getting
There's
confused.
too many.
But what did he said that he didn't want the police going door to door because of the violence and
Yes.
police brutality and gun violence. He just flat out said it that police violence and was gun violence. And yeah, that was an excellent point, I thought. It kind of loses its significance when you can't remember who said it. But I guess that's the point. When you have all 12
Yes.
on stage, it's confusing, but you do get to hear these perspectives that we wouldn't have heard if it was just the top three.
Mayor Pete needs to go. I swear last night he was chapping my ass like nothing. This whole like, I'm from the Midwest and we know what life's really like there. We know everything. And I'm so tired of it. And I say this as someone who grew up in the Midwest. You grew up in the heartland too. The idea that people from the heartland have some sort of special real Americanness about them is divisive and ignorant. And Congressman Tim Ryan from Ohio is wrong. Because he also posted on Twitter about how it needs to be someone from the heartland, and so Feminist Utopia has a little thing going there. Sorry, Benita. I don't think we'll get banned.
Oh, that's okay. If we do, we'll just make another account under a different name. Hey, if they don't ban Trump, they can't ban us. Oh,
Well, he can block me, but you can block people, and he might. But the point is that this is not the conversation I want any Democratic candidate to have talking about real Americans. You don't see Kamala Harris from California saying, hey, we're the sixth largest economy. Why don't you sit down and shut up, Iowa?
right. And the other thing that's implicit in that heartland and middle America are the true Americans is that traditionally they are less diverse
Yes.
than the coasts. And I think there's a little bit of white supremacy hiding in that assumption.
Yes, and they don't want to unpack it. And again, this is something we have talked about personally. We will talk about more with Feminist Utopia. Is that if you're not actively unpacking your racism, that's a problem.
Right.
And I don't think they've thought about it that way. That when you say, well, the only real Americans are those from Iowa and Minnesota and I've worked, and Amy Klobuchar has done this too, about I know real Americans, I'm from Minnesota. I don't know how Minnesotans are more American than someone from
Are they? Yeah.
Oregon.
Everybody in Texas is fake, evidently.
Yes, well, that's true. But anyway.
No, just from Dallas.
Just Cowboy fans. I'll narrow it down even further.
Oh, okay.
Cowboy fans can all just, So in closing, I want to talk about who we want to get off the stage. And by get off the stage, I mean leave the race.
Right. And we have to remember that there's still people in the race that weren't on the Democratic debate stage, including Marianne Williamson. She's still out there campaigning, and so is Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, Tim Ryan of Ohio, John Delaney of Maryland.
I forgot about Delaney.
Montana Governor Steve Bullock, and former Representative Joe Seastack of Pennsylvania. So I think it's safe to say that we think that they won't make it to the November debate, and they should probably gracefully retreat.
Gabbard needs to go. I hated her answers on Syria. She kept talking about regime change war instead of talking about the fact that she actively supports Assad and Russia's view of Assad. despite their horrific crimes against their own people and using chemical warfare, and her "I want to ban third trimester abortions" stance.
Oh, that was just tone deaf, I thought.
Her whole thing was tone deaf, and I started calling her Tulsi Mary / Marianne. She wanted to talk about feelings. She had that same "I just ate an edible" look. I just go, please.
Yeah, I'm done. You know who else I'm done with is Beto O'Rourke, and I'm from Texas, and I voted for him.
I block walked for him when I lived in Texas.
But he's not adding anything, and he has this entitlement attitude that really annoys me. I agree with his stance on getting rid of guns, but I'm not sure that he's got a decent plan to do it, and it seems like that's his one issue, and he and Pete Buttigieg are going at it, and I'm just done. I don't want to see him on the stage anymore.
Him and Mayor Pete can go hang out and argue at the bar and shoot pool and drink beer and stop bugging the rest of the grown-ups. Mayor Pete is a middling mayor of a small town, a small city in Indiana with no national experience. Why on earth should I listen to him? Because he's a white male? I suggest he needs some time to grow up.
Well, there are some headlines I read that say that he did the best in the debate and he basically won it. And so I'm interested to see, what happens in November. We know he'll be on the stage. He has broken 10% in polling averages earlier in New Hampshire, but that's about it.
Because he looks like them. He thinks like them. And again, New Hampshire is 94% white.
Right.
Why do they get to choose? So I actually wrote a letter to the DNC about that, how you have to have high-ranking polls in Iowa and New Hampshire. Fuck them. Let me think if there's anybody else that I really just want to see not there.
Andrew Yang,
we get it. Automation's a problem. Next.
Yeah, and we get it. He has an autistic son and his wife stays home.
Yes. I was texting you. We were texting about that, and that really upset me. Running for office in using his son's issues and challenges to promote himself really hits home for me. I wouldn't do it. My oldest is an adult now, but he has moderate autism. I can't imagine trading on that. That's his life. Why would I use that to run for office?
Right. He had some good ideas. He's contributed them. We're talking about it. He's done his piece. Now you can fade away.
Fade away and wait for a Democrat to win and then campaign and push in public for a cabinet post.
Right.
And gain some experience in creating policy and legislation. This is important, folks.
Right.
So, we have no call to action this week.
Well, you did mention that one
sistersong.net, sistersong.net.
Check out reproductive justice and what it means, and keep listening.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us today at Feminist Utopia. If you like our work, please give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access our podcasts so others can find us as well. You may also become a Feminist Utopia patron at patreon.com to show your appreciation. Patrons get perks. And check out our blog and other resources at our website, feministutopia.net. Things are always being added. Email us your idea of what a feminist utopia would look like or any questions to info@feministutopia.net. We appreciate you taking the time to listen and grow with us. Our sound engineer is Melody Kelly. Feminist Utopia is created by Debbie Williams and Benita Malone.